Hello, welcome to the Square Base Show. Me and Val Heffelfinger are about to give you the best tier list you've ever seen. Welcome to the old world.
We're going tiers. We're tearing it up. We're tearing up this episode.
Mm-hmm. From the S tier Val Heffelfinger to me, your D tier Rob. Welcome to the show. And excited to have you here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live. If you're watching this live on a Tuesday when we record on Twitch on the Honest Wargamer, or join us in the comments. Thanks for saying hello, Val. How have you been?
I've been doing just fine, Robbo. I had a lovely weekend with the fam. It was Mother's Day. Also went to a carnival.
Oh,
that was fun. A Mayfair, if you will, literally Mayfair. So yeah, it was a lovely week. What about yourself, sir?
Really good. I've been busy on the Goblin production mines, which has been a bit of an interesting kind of take. We also are working on our first set of official Honest Wargamer scenery, which has been a kind of fun ongoing project, which we're close to delivering, which I'm actually quite excited about. And then in addition to that, still got some little venue bits to sort. I'm very close. Tomorrow, I think, I publish my first doubles event for the old world here at the arena. We've obviously done teams.
Wonderful.
Going to do
different
doubles.
From teams.
Different from teams. Doubles, where it's 2 players playing 1,000 points. Quite excited about that because I think lots of people have been very thirsty for helping get new people in. Yes, Bus.
I'm just going to call you out on this and put you on the spot on air. Do we have a TO resource section yet on the? I know you put the the terrain packs up. But do we have? Because I often am getting questions from aspiring TOs and people out there
it's an amazing
who are you guys are doing really awesome stuff. You have a great pack. It's tried and tested. Where can I find it? And I'm always like, I'll get right back to you. And then I run down the street and I never come back.
We'll stick that on the list, and then I'll try and get that done before next week's show. That's what we'll put out there, and we'll put that because that's a good point. We should provide those resources for people. I think that's an incredibly fair point. We do already do the terrain cards, which you can get for free on the Honest Wargame website.
Your terrain pack is there too, how it all works. Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, just not necessarily all the other elements, which someone did bring up today, because we were talking today with the people in the WhatsApp chat for the events at the arena, and they were saying that there's some very odd TO rulings around, I guess, for comp and other stuff, which is kind of weird. So I guess providing a resource means that we get some more standardization, which is fun. Obviously, different stuff is also fun.
And hey, you can do what old Val does, which is influence as much as possible. In fact, I would like to say that we have put a very positive influence on an event that is near and dear to my heart that is coming out very soon for sale. Capital City Bloodbath in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I'm so pleased I will get to go back to Ottawa, back to the Capital City Bloodbath, back to the EY Center, and get to play Old World. It is being TO'd by some lovely lads, and they're using not exactly the square-based format, but very close. Very close. I would say a very sane, very awesome pack has been already announced. I'll throw in the comments the event packs there. Tickets are not yet up for sale. I'm very excited.
There's very few places I've traveled the world doing live coverage, and one of the places that I would love to return to would be Capital City Bloodbath. It's a great event. It's really well run. It's got some kind of homely feel while still weirdly being massive. Same feel as CanCon. CanCon feels like this real community, cultural vibe, which I think is excellent as well. So, if you do get a chance to go there, I might even see what the dates are. I might even get myself over. Which I want to.
I want to say August 20th and 21st. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll look at the calendars and see if we can get over there.
Delete that. August 24th and 25th is the actual dates of it. So basically the last full weekend of August.
Perfect.
There you go.
All right. Well, we'll try it. We'll see if I can also get over there as well, which would be fun. So, with that in mind, and with a doubles event coming up, and also realizing off the back of last week's chat, Val, I had a lot of comments on the YouTube. Thanks for leaving comments. Please do.
Yes.
One of the things I think that's interesting is I think still some people are on the fence about what armies to pick up and play. And I think before before we, as the game was launching, because we're still really new into the game, I think people weren't really sure. So I thought maybe that's what we could do today. Me and Val, with all of our experiences, like loads of the Discord input as well, have kind of like been thinking about what the best armies to pick up and play, and a couple of reasons as to why. And then we are going to talk about that today in a tier list, a classic good old tier list. And now, obviously, if you like the look of the army, any of those armies are good and worth playing. But I think there's some positives and negatives to all of them that are worth talking about.
To be clear, Rob, this is not going to be a super crunchy which army is the best. This is a full gut check. This is we are the deciders. Bush era administration. Very very subjective process that we're going to do here. Basically, our combined. This is probably just our favorites.
Now, many of you won't know that me and Val previously, with our friend the Falcon, shout out to the Falcon, I did a Bush era administration podcast that pretended to be a 40k show. And then, did you see, and so I'm going to have to segue the beginning of this tier video, I'm sorry. Did you see that Bush came out today and said that when Kanye called him a racist, it was the worst moment of his presidency? And I was like, now Bush must be like, oh, how the turntables. Right, on that particular thing. And also that was the worst part.
Maybe Bush reached out and first of all, worst part of your presidency? There's a couple, there's a solid, there's a very big S tier of worst moments of George W. Bush's second term. And second of all, maybe Dub just reached out to Kanye, had a heart-to-heart, and that's where Kanye came from. Who knew?
Anyway, sorry to sidetrack all of us. It's unnecessary but very valuable to me and Valor's people. Okay. That happened today. All right, okay, so you want to get into the old world and you want to pick up an army to play. It seems like an odd thing to do later into the edition, but we really needed some information to be able to to resource that. So we'll try and talk about this. Also, me and Val are very conscious of getting models as well. So model availability is going to be one of those things that's going to be a conversation. 3D printing and other stuff. So we'll dive straight into it and we'll see how you feel. And if you do disagree with us, the best place to do that is in the comments, because that gives other people the opportunity to look at discourse. They get to be like, oh, I think that's not right. And then that is really healthy, because all we're trying to do is provide a guide for people who want to pick up these armies and join the ever-growing, and as I've said in a previous show, I would say, the smallest the community is ever going to be. It's going to explode over the next 2 years, in my personal opinion.
I fully agree. I feel like the explosion continues. And I just want to clarify the rules of the game here. We're saying the top tiers, it's a tier list of armies to collect and play.
Play specifically.
Play and collect?
Collect and play. Yeah, those are two factors. What do they like to play? And so that's going to come into army diversity as an example. So dwarfs are going to be one of those things that are going to get knocked down on army diversity. They don't have any monsters, they don't have any cavalry, so they are going to get knocked down. To collect,
Rob, I own almost every army. You realize that they're all S tier to me, so this is fucking impossible. All right, so this is just gonna maybe that's going to be the bit. Here we go. Right, do we have the fancy tier thing?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, I've done my homework. I've done my homework.
Spike the mic. Holy snapple. Look at all. Is that all of them?
That's all of them. I'm almost certain that's all of them.
Simply the bells. All right.
Right, okay, so let's go and we'll jump straight in. So we'll start with Beastmen. Okay, we're going to talk about playability. I'm going to throw it to you first off, if that's okay. Playability, collectability. Tell me how you're feeling on this.
Okay, well, up until very recently, incredible playability, incredible collectability, but I'm pretty sure no longer available for sale, or is it off of the GW web cart? That's going to be a quick deciding factor here.
It is off the cart now. I'm almost certain. Although many local gaming stores are still going to have many start collecting boxes available. I was just literally in a local gaming store yesterday. There were 2 on the shelf. You don't forget as well, if you are playing the old world, Someone ran the numbers on this recently. If you are playing the old world, you do not need as many models as you think, and I think there's a good conversation to have about that. You know, it's a rank and flank game, but you actually don't have many ranks. You don't have many flanks. Like it is fairly like a level 4 wizard, maybe a big monster. So collective, you don't need as many models. Maybe that'll get changed in the rumored future GHB for the old world. But for now, you don't need tons and tons of models. And a start collecting box, which has got like a load of gore, it's got a big monster, either Cygor or Gorgons. Pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah, and I was, by the way, correct. Official, GW no longer available. However, we got to say that when you're collecting, from a collecting perspective, one key element is always going to be, until everything is released, and even after that, is always going to be the secondhand market. And respect and shout out goes to all of our brothers and sisters and MBs in the AOS world. But with the slow squadification of Beasts of Chaos in the AOS, you might see some armies available on the secondhand sites on the round basis that would just need to be reattributed. So now we just got to make a call. I'm going to say that Beastmen, despite me having Beastmen, I've yet to get them on the table. Mm-hmm. I know that they're good, but I'm going to say good but not great for me.
Good but not great, a B. So is that based on playability or collectability, or just the whole thing together?
That's based on absolutely neither of those standards. They're very collectible and they're incredibly playable. They have good rules. They're a core faction. They just rarely sing to me. Perhaps I never have them. Like they're not calling to me as some others do. It's hard to say it, but I would say the situation. If your situation is you want an army that you can both collect and play, then they're definitely above a B tier. For me personally, we're looking at a B tier.
Okay, all right, that's fair. I would say that, like, collectability, the one thing I would say about them on the collectibles front is that they are older sculpts. And those sculpts stand up super well. And I know we're on an old world show, so that's a hilarious statement to make, that they're older sculpts, as that's our entire jam. But, like...
We just get a timeout on the field. Can I get a tweet?
Yeah.
Tweet. All right, so in old world context, they're actually newer sculpts. They have excellent multi-part.
I was using time as a metric.
No. Time is Old World was doing COVID timeline before it was cool. So these are a lot of things that were re-sculpted, multi-part plastics in, I want to say, 7th edition. Mm-hmm. Somewhere, something like that. They got the Cygor and the big model. God damn it, it's definitely better than a B tier. But I was just going to say that actually, as far as an old world range is considered, if we're going to call it that, this is a fairly new old range.
Yes. Correct. I agree. It is a fairly new old range. You're right. And I would also say one of the other things that we haven't mentioned, and I think that's going to be something that can come up a lot for this, is that the number of 3D sculpts that are available, which are in the hundreds, especially for Beastmen. There's some incredible sculpts out there. Shout out to Tom, who won best coolest army at a recent Square-based GT, because it was just stunning, and that was all a 3D print army, as well as some toys he found. So I would say that you can upgrade that. I'd say playability pushes this army very high. In my personal opinion, I would say that you can do all of it. You can do magic, you can do fighting blocks, you can do monsters. I'm not sure about cavalry. Centaur are pretty funny. I would say the rules and mechanics are pretty fun. I got to say that I know this is really, we shouldn't have started maybe with, I think this is an S in my world. So like, if you want me to hit you with an A to find a middle ground, but I think this is up there. The only thing is the models for me. Like, I would say models make this maybe a B, maybe an A.
An A. Okay. I'll haggle down from S to A. But I mean, if we're saying to collect and play, it's, I wanted to go lower than B tier on the Goatmen, but I didn't. Because it would be disrespectful of the proud tradition of incredibly objective tier lists if I were to have done that. So I will accept A, all around great.
Okay. A, but I probably feel S. All right. Tomb Kings, not Tomb Kings. Sorry, Bretonnians. We'll do it all in French. La Breton. S A B C.
Nous avons Bretonnians.
I'm going to start off. I'm going to say collectability. Obviously, you can pick up the old new old models from G-Dubs, and there are some new models as well, and they're all great. Shout out to a fan favorite on the Square Base show, Elise Duchard.
Elise
Duchard. I legitimately was just walking around the Square Based event the other day, just screaming Elise Duchard. I was like, do you have Elise Duchard? They were like, no, Rob. And I was like, get her now. Anyway, but I would say that if you're new to the old world, and if you're new to Warhammer exclusively, it's kind of geared towards. I'd say the Bretonnians are a little bit more challenging. They have their own unique way of playing, which I think is a little bit tough, obviously with lance formations and other stuff. And while that's not super intense, you also you've got nice range in the army. Obviously, you've got like war machines, you've got peasants. You obviously have got some really nice ways to build around. The Green Knight is wicked on the table and wicked as a concept and as a, not as a sculpt probably.
Yep.
And so I would say that they're great, but like you've got a hobby. This is a tough hobby army. Like I would argue, Haunts is.
It can be. They did give us the out of having, a single heraldry based on your duke or whatever. So it's not like in the old days where it was like you must have every knight individually.
Yeah.
Painted.
Although that
in
is
beautiful revelry. Although that's still the sickest way to do it.
Yeah,
It's sick. So good.
Correct.
I mean, and unlike a certain painting channel, you never want to use green unless it's the Green Knight. I mean, I was horrified and shocked, by what I saw on Rogue Hobbies. It was disgusting. It was disturbing. I haven't been that upset since something happened in 40K. So look, with Bretonnians, ironically, if we're saying collect
and play,
they collect. They are.
People,
I'm talking like Trump.
Getting into the old world.
Getting into the old world.
China.
I mean, it is China. It is one of the it's got its own release. It's got its own starter set, isn't it? You get the rule book. You get a sizable faction. I mean, it's
nice.
Harder to paint. It's nice. I mean, it pretty much is also an army that if you don't want to paint up all those guys, you can just go, oops, all Pegasus Knights. And they look cool and they're really good. It's feeling S tier for me. I mean, it comes with a rule book. If we're talking collect and play, you are seeing it. A lot of people are starting with Bretonnians. It's definitely a strong rule set. You got a couple of different ways to do it. You don't have to be all cav. You can also be all flying monstrous cav.
You can.
What are we thinking?
I just think that like everyone goes into like you said when you said you could just do the single heraldry. I think that looks wicked, and I think I've seen some incredible. Ryan's army was amazing. I saw the other day. I've seen some amazing armies. Obviously, Matt G's army is stunning. So yeah, great armies available. But I feel like if you're doing Bretonnians, maybe this is a bit of an OG thing. I'm feeling you're doing the unique heraldry on everything. Or that's how you say to yourself, I'm going to do Bretonnians. Each night's going to look different. That's what you say. And then when you don't actually achieve that, you get sad. And I would say if you
there's also there's the Army of Infamy errantry crusade, which would allow you to like support that with rules too, which is pretty dope.
Yes, and so I would say that like that is a real high hobby hurdle to hit early, and you're going to be
high hobby hurdle to hit. Woo!
Woo! That's it. So I would say that like it just has to be knocked down for me, because I think the aspiration that you have when you buy Bretonnians is so hard to achieve. And so I'd drop it down. And then playability, I agree with you. You can do Peg Knights, or you can do some other stuff. But it feels like, why would I play Bretonnians and not play Knights? What am I doing with my life? But that's how I felt about Warriors of Chaos, where I'm like, yeah, play Warriors of Chaos, and then I don't have any Warrior Knights. I don't have any Warriors on foot. I've got Dragon Ogres and Demon Princes. So, there's a bit of ludonarrative there. So I would say that they end up as a B. Because I think that's tougher to hobby.
B for Bretonnia. I mean, that sold me. B for Bretonnia. Done.
All right, done. Okay.
I mean, could have been B for Beastmen as well, but nope.
They're
no,
really good.
No, missed it. No, you're just horny for those goats. I get it.
That's true. All right, so next up.
Who's up?
Chaos Dwarfs. Easy yes, obviously.
Yeah. Collect. First step, collect.
D.
Let's just do a quick Google.
D.
Terrible. It's terrible. Oh, Lord. There are some wonderful third-party options.
That's true.
And if you personally have any of the original options, you could buy yourself a nice car by selling that on eBay immediately and then 3D printing whatever you can. Mm-hmm. That's basically my collecting advice for Chaos Dwarfs. So yeah, it's very, very difficult. I mean, there are some really, really good third-party options, both 3D print land and traditional resin and pewter model suppliers have made your totally non-problematic Chaos Dwarf range available over the years, because it has been a long neglected stepchild of Games Workshop, going all the way back to the heady days of 5th edition fantasy. And then the rules. We have been hinting at a deep dive. And I have read the rules. I have read them. But they do feel a little bit challenging. Now, these are our first Renegade faction on the board here. So we're seeing both a combination of maybe limited rule set and non-existent model set. It's feeling pretty terrible.
Yeah, super fair. I can't disagree with Val on any of those things. Obviously, if you want a hobby, you can always just get normal dwarfs and then green stuff on an evil mustache and give them an English accent, as we know the mark of the bad guy. But no, Val's right. And I'm a long time Chaos Dwarf fan. You obviously can try and get the OGs from £1 million, which you obviously wouldn't do. You can try and get them from various recasters, and there are a ton of really excellent either third-party sculpts or STLs. They've other than that, like if they were available from Games Workshop main, they're wicked. They've got like that diversity, right? They've got monsters, they've got monstrous infantry. Don't have monstrous cav actually. Oh no, they do. They've got monstrous cav. They got
the Minotaur dudes. Yep.
Yeah, they've got wizards. They've got wizards on their dragon variants. Yeah, they've got chaff. They've got the whole kit and caboodle. Bull centaurs is what you're thinking of.
Thank you.
So they've got wicked and unique war machines. So as a roster, it's insane, but it's an impossible to get hold of roster, which is sad. And then they've got a train. They've got they
used to have. I mean, I'm just putting them in terrible for one simple reason. They killed my D Godai Destroyer. They took him out of the game. Rumor had it that the rules exist somewhere. JTY, just slip them in the inbox, all right, buddy. But there is no Godai Destroyer, and that was my number one favorite thing about the Dwarfs. So D for Dwarfs, terrible.
Yeah, so I'd like to be clear. My thoughts are that if you were able to get all the minis together, it's got such an eclectic range that you would be able to have a really fun time with it. You could one day be like, oops, all monstrous cav. Next day be like, oops, all war machines. Next day be like, oops, all goblins and cards or hobgrots and stuff. So you got some real options, but you can't get them, and that's rubbish. And so, and they're quite expensive, so they do have to go for terrible. But I would say that if you were able to get them, just to be clear, then playing with them would be, I think, a barrel of laughs, and it's the next on my list to do.
All right.
So
okay.
All right. Next up is Daemons of Chaos. Ooh.
Daemons. So second Renegade faction up on the board. So immediately, for those who don't know, there are 9 declared core factions, the cool kids, who will be getting full support from our saviors over at SDS.
9
that
so
means
far.
Arcane. 9 so far. Remember, the scope of the game has changed, but we got 9 core factions to kick off whatever this edition winds up being. Demons, oddly enough, on the outs in this initial cut of core factions. That means no Arcane Journal, potentially no overt rules updates or balancing for them. I find it hard to believe that will wind up being true, because people are still playing all of these Renegade factions. But we do have to call it out. The Renegades immediately in tough. However, we're talking about a faction that is represented in both 40K and Age of Sigmar. It has been blessed with almost a complete top to bottom range refresh for everything but the core infantry, I would reckon.
Yes.
In a lot of cases. Okay, basically, I'm thinking of the Greater Demons for the most part, which look absolutely amazing. Most of the characters.
Most of the stuff has been changed around. You're absolutely right. The only issue with the Greater Demons, which are, as you say, stunning, is that they are unbaseable on the demon sizes that we've been given.
Incorrect. No, sir. No, your 100 by 150 is the max on all of them. So they've all been.
Can you get a Great and Clean one on there?
Of course. Well, that's the biggest base there is. Great and Clean one was also originally designed for 8th edition end times.
Oh shit, that's exciting.
So, yeah, he comes on a 1 by 150. No, he comes on a 1 by 150.
That's it. Okay, great news. Fantastic.
The only thing I'm not sure about is whether or not the Bloodthirster is still on his surfboard or not. Because originally the Bloodthirster, when he was released for the end times, he was on a cav base, and so he was just it was really funny. But maybe they put him to the 160. I haven't double checked that, but yes, the Great and Clean one, and then subsequently Lord of Change and the Keeper of Secrets were re-released after Fantasy ended. But yeah, in the legacy list, you'll see that they are able to be either on their original 50 by 50, which is actually the version of them all that I have. I have the old ones. Or they can go to their bigger bases and be accommodated. You also have cool things like in the gifts section, things to make your herald a sloppity bile piper. You have things that can make I can't remember what her name is, but the lady playing the meat harp, the sinew harp of the person's back. Mm-hmm. So you can actually make your demon characters reflect the newer models and kits, which is super sick. I love Demons. I think they're a really, really deep book. They do suffer from being, maybe not as polished as some of the core factions, but I think super deep, incredibly collectible, very easily found in the secondhand or full retail, wherever you go. I got to say this at least A tier for me.
Okay, A tier. I don't disagree with any of that. I think the fact that, just like you said, you've got a variety or a quality amount of models available to you makes this very, very good. Again, because of the different gods, you've got lots of options, you've got lots of customization as well. Demons are just inherently very evocative. You've got lots of, you have a very wide roster as well. So wide roster, available miniatures, but the only downside is that they are not a core faction.
So here's what I got to say. Here's what I got to say to this. So very purposefully, Old World is set in the years before the Great War Against Chaos. Mm-hmm. Okay? The Great War Against Chaos, Robert. And yes, we're not there yet. We're dicking around in the Border Princes or whatever. So, the winds of magic have ebbed. They are not flowing. However, I suspect that if there is one legacy faction, if there is one renegade faction that will one day cross the Rubicon once more and return to the glorious bosom of its fantasy roots, it's gotta be the Demons.
Okay.
The Demons, they just you literally cannot have the battle for Prague without Demons. So someday, maybe not in this edition, someday I think you'll definitely see full support for Demons. I would do that with great confidence.
They might even do their own Demons, legit.
Well, if they reboot, maybe that's what we're waiting for. Maybe they reboot all of the core stuff, which they kind of have, in AOS, so that the old kits are available in Old World, which is what they've been doing.
Yeah, it's quite complicated. Go back and watch the video where we talked about, I might have been on streams actually, but where we talked about the war between STS and Games Workshop. But I love the idea that maybe Demons is this unsolvable problem, and the only answer I can see Games Workshop coming up with is that they then legitimately make a demon department, and their job is
maybe it's the Demons that finally unites all of the parties, because they can't split the baby up because it's a key part of every world. So maybe that's what brings it all together.
Fine, they are literally joined by chaos is excellent as a meta narrative. Anyway, I'm going to put Demons as B because I think model availability is high. You've got lots of options, and I think that's in there. And I think they're very thematic, so I think that B. I think that's where they're at. Next up, Vampire Counts. Vampire Counts.
Ooh.
I'll jump off straight off this. Again, many of the models are available. Many of them, obviously, in the Soulblight Gravelords range from Age of Sigmar. They're not a core faction, so that's something. They are renegade factions. That's something to be conscious of. They are currently incredibly meta.
Also, is this Vampire Counts?
Yeah, it is. The next one.
Next up on, isn't that Dark Elves there? Vampire Counts is down there. The guy with the fist.
Oh, well, we'll carry on with Vampire Counts. Yeah, you're right. Okay. You're so right. You're so right. Thank you.
No problem. Don't want to confuse people.
Okay. So the... you've got a good variety, though, as an army. They don't have any war machines necessarily, but they do have a lot of shooting. Monsters, magic, units, cool units to fight with. They've got some very engaging ways to play. They can also be very strong, and they're also incredibly thematic. I would say that because of those limited rule sets, like Val was talking about, they don't quite have the width that I'd like to see from like what is easily one of the most evocative ranges. You know, like they're literally vampires that have been alive for hundreds of years. They could have been really fun, and I think that they don't really have that as a rule set, I'd say. But you can get the models. I think you could do a lot more. I just feel like Old World is crunchy enough that you could have gone very crunchy with vampires. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think maybe your view of them is a little skewed by the fact that there's a very dominant, one might say, meta-defining or shaping list right now with the double mortis engine, with running some always regenerating blood knights, a bunch of zombies, that kind of stuff. But as far as like overall ranges are concerned, and if we were using the rule, the measuring stick we were using before, as far as playability is concerned, I mean, this is an army that has 3 different kinds of cavalry. You got a ghost cavalry, you got your white cavalry, and you got your vampire cavalry. You have monstrous creatures, both solos. You got the Vargeist, you got the Crypt Ghouls, you got Ghouls, you got flying ghouls and Vargeist. Like, I mean, it actually is. Until you said that, I didn't quite realize just actually how deep the actual catalog is for this army. That being said, I think I know what you mean by in the sense that maybe they get pigeonholed into a couple of different play styles.
I super agree with you. I think that's a great point. The roster is super broad. What I mean is very much like with Warriors of Chaos, like all of those additional units are super cool to have in an undead force, but for vampire counts, as in vampires who are lords as a singular title, I just would have liked to have seen like a little bit more. But I think that they've moved beyond that. They're these kind of like necromantic focuses for like just death armies in general. But I think actually maybe going to Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th edition, and previous editions, maybe what we've seen from Age of Sigmar with the diversification of the undead armies. Maybe that's where I'm at. Does that make sense? I would have liked to have seen a little bit, not politicking, but
what's very true, Rob, is that they have, I think because like in previous, it feels like the blender Vampire Lord has been punished. And so like, unfortunately within Vampire Counts, which is also vampires and necromancers, always has been, there's always been a number of different undead flavors within the Vampire Counts, right?
Yeah.
They're not just like the skeletons of the Tomb Kings. There's like, it's basically undeath minus the skeletons of the Tomb Kings, right? So like, I see what you're saying. I still feel like the quality of the rules, so like the versatility of the rule set, the availability of the models. I mean, it's hard for me to not put this army genuinely S tier. It's also one of those armies that feels like intrinsically old world. So as far as a legendary army, like as far as like a legendary army that or renegade army that it's got to come back at some point. I gotta feel like Vampire Counts as that army. I'm gonna say this about all of them. Spoilers. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like S tier from both a playability, collectability, all that kind of stuff, except non-core faction. The only dig against it I have is that it's not a core faction, so it could get obliterated in an update. Who knows?
I've agreed with everything you've said, and I'll put that in A. My only thoughts, which I've only really realised, just like you did with its diversity during this convo, is actually, I think Age of Sigmar did a good job of breaking out undead into...
Yeah, no, exactly. Undead was like is at least well, how many factions have become? Three factions?
Yeah. I think you could have a much more elite kind of Warriors of Chaos style only vampire kind of build, which would be really fun, like foot infantry, that whole thing. I think that would be sick. And then the other parts. But anyway, we're not getting those, so we'll move on to Dark Elves. Elves. So to jump us off, again, not a core faction, a renegade faction. The models are somewhat available from Games Workshop, although limited. Some models are now missing. You can get them from the Cities of Sigmar range, which is interesting. There's lots of sculpts of these online, but not as many as I would like. Dark Elves kind of oddly don't seem to be that popular.
Elves in general are actually kind of hard to find good third-party versions of. That's almost a show in its own right. Yeah.
Yes. That's super true. But thematically incredibly cool, which I think is interesting. Quite a diverse roster when you get to it. Elite infantry, many types of cav, monstrous characters, but no monstrous infantry, monstrous cavalry. So a little bit limited in that front. They got one war machine. So I think they're quite interesting there. So I think overall quite interesting, but I don't know. And they're also very, very. They're very
rapey.
Old. They're very old. Yes, they're very old world, but but they're lacking the most old world element of them, which
being
is
from the old world.
Malekith, of course.
Okay. You mean Malal? Malal? What did they rename Malekith? Malarian. Mr.
Malarian.
Here's what I'll have to say about the Dark Elves. First of all, I've always found them to be very similar to how it used to be. 40K actually got better at this, but you had sort of you had Space Marines, and then you had spiky Space Marines, which were the bad guys, Chaos Space Marines.
Yep.
And they kind of just mirrored each other.
Yes.
And I feel like Dark Elves and High Elves are that trope within Warhammer Fantasy Battles, that there's a lot of mirroring of those two factions. And you have almost one for one, each unit has its opposite number. So to me, Dark Elves, if you had to, I'm going to say this controversially. I've said a lot before with Legacy factions, but if you had to make a cut, maybe not lore wise, but just faction wise, they feel like one of the most irrelevant factions on the board. They feel like they're just sexy, mean, evil High Elves, and I don't really find that they add much to this. You can't find them anywhere. Also, for the most part, they're entirely out of print, and their rules are some of the least developed of the Renegade factions. Probably the worst list, from what I understand, by reputation only. I only know what other people tell me. Therefore, I'm putting these guys decidedly below D terrible tier, because I don't even
get rid tier. I wasn't expecting this.
Just fucking cut them.
Title of this show will now be "Should Dark Elves be deleted from the old world?" ? Yeah, the hot take immediately in. Wild.
Get them out of here.
Okay. I don't feel the same about that. I feel like the intrinsic story of the High Elves, it linked massively with the Dark Elves, and then that is linked inherently to kind of where we end up back in the day with the Empire and previous to that the War of the Beard, stuff like that. I feel like that there's that then
let's do some cooler stuff with them, boys. I think this is a great opportunity for a full reinvention of what we think they are or what they will come to be. I mean, we will see the Dark Elves again someday, but right now I feel that they're kind of barren.
Yeah, I would say evil in the old world on Games Workshop's writing is pretty unfortunately nowadays self-referential, and therefore is derivative, that's the right word, of itself, which is a bit of a shame. They could really reimagine the evil in of its own self, which I think would be quite interesting. But you're right, it is sexy. They've got a diverse roster. Their models are harder to get a hold of. So playability is okay. Models being able to get hold of is okay. So it feels like they have to be above Chaos Dwarfs.
Right now. Can you?
You can get Executioners. You can get quite a lot of it. Charybdis is there. Hydra is there. Dark Elf on Dragon is there. So you can get most of it from the main range because it's all in Cities of Sigmar. So It's all available
but
right now.
I mean, I'm just going to tell you this much: if we wind up above mediocre with Dark Elves, I'm just disconnecting immediately.
Oh no, we're going for mediocre, is what I'm saying.
All right, we got it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you can't justify them being with Chaos Dwarfs, because Chaos Dwarfs have got a great roster, but you can't get it, so it has to be bad for new people, right? Okay, next up. Okay, so this is the one we got to be really careful about. Clear your mind, get in a positive headspace. We're about to talk about dwarfs.
Oh boy.
Dwarfs, everyone who plays dwarfs is a weird little freak. So get your mind in the right place, because they will come for us if you don't get your shit together, okay?
Okay.
So, dwarfs, okay? Very popular, right? They all love using tiny dice.
Yeah.
Okay? They love hills.
A lot of sizism in your comments so far. Tiny little freaks, tiny little dice. I don't know if I like where you're taking this pod. We're a very vast organization, and this is unvast reading of dwarfs.
My apologies. So dwarfs, the roster is, we're about to get a new arcane journal, and therefore you'll get the release of the model. So I'm going to say, if
collect and play. Collect and play is the tier list here, not overall quality. We're talking about collecting and playing.
Yeah. So you're going to be able to collect these very soon. They're going to have this whole new way to play them, whatever that might be, and maybe some new models. So we've got that available to us. So collect is great. So I think collect, you're just absolutely the top tier. The models are good to great to hilarious. There's a billion alternative models out there, ranging from absolutely wild and like whimsical to just
it's hard to pick who does the best dwarfs at this point. It's hard to pick.
Yeah, but they're all competing. They're all competing for your hard-earned bucks, and so you've got loads of options, which is great. Especially if you wanted to like mix and match. I love the idea of a mix and match kind of army from different designers, different dwarfs.
If you nailed the scale. Yeah.
So really good for collectability. The problem, some may say, is playability, because their roster is some lads with guns, some war machines, and a couple of helicopters. No monsters infantry, no monstrous cavalry, no characters who can be monsters, although they can be on the top of a couple of shield bearers. And therefore, as we saw recently from the Square Base GT, we've seen lots of people try really hard to build combat dwarfs, and when they finally decide to sit as gunline dwarfs, they do quite well. So that's
I will say, despite what the naysayers might say, i.e. people who may say that there isn't, I would say yes, there's a tremendous difficulty, always has been, with dwarfs and diversity in the selection of both models and unit choices on the table, and what types of armies you can actually run with it. So, like, for me, though, that hasn't dissuaded it from being one of the most popular factions that has ever existed. It's really like, if you're running dwarves and you want to do anything but a few narrow, like basically come at me, bro, style lists, and you want to get out there, mix it up, and do stuff that's like crafty and different. Right now, you don't have a lot of tools for that. We can anticipate that with our arcane journals and armies and infamous armies coming out with that we might get, like we have with the 3 previous ones, some really fun, clever, different ways to play dwarfs. We don't know that yet. I have to say, though, for me personally, it would be impossible to say that as a core faction with tremendous amount of sculpts available from GW at retail, if you just want to be that kind of person, and then followed up by, I can think of 2 or 3 different complete ranges available through STL and third-party manufacturers. If we're saying collect and play, I think it's hard to put it anywhere other than A tier.
I think collect is S. The vibe, the style, the energy for dwarf players, as I alluded to at the start, is S. I think for playability, also that can be a little bit challenging. Your opponent, like if you end up in a gun off, they sit in a corner, you sit in a corner.
They're the Tau of fantasy.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but also you will keep challenging yourself to go out there and try and fight people, and you're always going to be a little, I think, disappointed in that regard, and I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem as well. And then the other kind of problem is that for new players, that's actually excellent. I don't know if that is excellent. You can be playing games, but you don't need to learn loads of elements of the game.
I think they're good narrow. They're a good narrow focus for someone just coming into it. Yeah.
But I think
they're
also,
good. They're a good beginner army.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think you lack a little bit of interactivity, which I think, again, if this is your first army, you want to be having a laugh with your friends. You don't need to be worrying about winning.
Where are you trying to put the dwarves right now, Rob?
I'm putting them. I'm putting them in B. I'm saying collectability is S, but playability is C. That's why I put them. So like,
at mediocre. Okay.
I just think the diversity is wildly lacking with the playstyle, and I think that the players
I'm
themselves
just saying
will get
that
bored.
While that is categorically true,
nice.
Rob, it clearly doesn't stop people from getting really horny for dwarfs. Like I mean, they are always representing.
I mean,
there's just, you know what I'm saying?
There's a cultural zeitgeist here, right?
But maybe that's the situational thing. Maybe situationally, if you're a dwarf guy or gal, that's the situation. So B. All right, I accept B.
Okay, yeah, good.
I'm still mad about demons in B, but it's all right.
I understand. Yeah, I think it's just literally everyone watched Lord of the Rings. Everyone was like, "I'm not Aragorn. I know that." Yeah, and obviously I don't want to be like Legolas, but obviously Gimli's my guy. And I think that's an entire generation of people just making that choice right there.
All right.
Okay, next up is the Empire.
Okay.
Empire, what do you think?
So, from a collectability and playability situation, first of all, they're core factions, so we know that both of these things might improve with time, right? Because they're going to get an Arcane Journal, they're going to get into some new ways to play. But out of the box, right now, you do have some difficulty getting the models retail, so like just your standard basic models, because I think some of them are still with the Cities of Sigmar, Steam Tank. What else? They kind of removed a bunch of things too. There's not a lot actually available anymore, I don't think. And then maybe some characters are available. And then on the table, from playability perspective, you kind of have the dwarfs without having good toughness, weapon skill, or leadership. And so you sort of sacrifice quality for quantity there. And they look great. They are, I think, what everyone wishes was a fantastic army. But right now, I feel as though that they would fit very comfortably in mediocre. And they have a long way to come. Also, even the look of the Empire for a lot of people is a bit of a turnoff with their sort of like, with the War of the Roses style, like plumed shirts and all that kind of stuff. War of the Roses is not the correct war. Chad, help me out. So yeah, it's to me they feel from a playability, collectability perspective very staunchly mediocre, despite being a core faction. They have the biggest gap to make up from their Grand Army to their Arcane Journal, and I don't know if the Arcane Journal is going to have enough juice to really breathe a lot of life into this in the future as we get into the Great War Against Chaos, as you know, like the Empire is united, or maybe as we get to learn a little bit more about those factions and all that kind of stuff, and maybe some new maybe as we actually get into the meat of this setting, Empire really shoots up and some cool shit happens. But right now, Rob, they feel real mediocre.
Yeah, rule set, I agree with you, feels super, super mediocre. The only kind of like pushback I'll have is that like humans are always kind of this like humans are just like, I want to be the human in the world, and then I want to battle against the other stuff. And I think that's quite popular. And also, like, oddly, very much like I was saying with vampire counts, because you could any other game system by any other developer, and I will say this about Games Workshop, and I don't mean this rudely, is they are sat on they're sat on a treasure trove of content that they just do not open. You could literally do vampire counts solo as a game system where 100%. You've got the different vampire count like nations.
Empire versus vampire counts could be its whole thing. It could be the whole thing.
Yes, but you could go down to just Empire. You could just literally have the different nation states with their different, slightly different heraldry, war machines battling it out. You could have reams of books. There's so much content there that other game systems would really expand upon. And Games Workshop only ever give the very lightest touch to these things, which is a bit of a shame. And therefore, I think that, like, with Empire specifically, you really can, like, there's really good stories for, like, Nuln and Marienburg and all these other ones. So you can really kind of kit bash, explore the depth of those sub-factions, and I think that's a real positive for them. But I agree with you, the roster feels on the slimmer side and then on the weaker side as well, which is a shame. Miniatures that are available, I think that they vary, although there are tons. You can go very whimsical with Empire and go get yourself some halflings, and you can go all the way to super grim dark, 3D prints or alternate sculpts. So there is quite a lot of option, but ultimately I think the roster is weak, like as a width, and also the play style is on the weaker side as well.
And looks too. Like, I mean, these are like, even if they bring back the Empire Militia, like halberds, for example, are terrible. The reason why they're terrible is they break easily, and there's no one who's at arms. Like, everyone is like pointing their halberd forward, so you just get this very bizarre looking units. Poorly designed, I think, in the men-at-arms. I think overall, biggest upside for the future, as of right now, though, I putting them anywhere above mediocre, I just could not abide.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that this has got the absolute opportunity to go to S. Like, this is
immediately, yeah, absolutely.
There were so many,
probably
options.
Not this edition either. I think that's a future edition thing, or like a big campaign development. Like, something big has to happen to really give them some interest. So we'll see what old JTY does with it all.
Yeah, you could expand this. Just like, for any fans out there who want to, if you want to spend the next 2 to 3 years of your life just literally doing a cities versus city, like a campaign book with the heraldry, that would be great. High Elves, my friend.
So do you have, well, before we...
High Elves. Elves are a core faction. These guys, they're a core faction. They've got a lot of diversity in their roster and some incredible sculpts as well, which is fun.
I mean, they have very tall white people, and then maybe slightly less tall white people. Yes, they're great diversity. Females, though, they got some genders.
You've got a couple of different cavalry units. You've got a lot of different infantry units. You do have monsters and different varieties of monsters as well, which is quite fun. Phoenixes and dragons, war machines. Oh, yeah. In addition, and they feel like a quintessentially core element of the background and the story. I would say, though, that infantry in the old world kind of feels a little bit weaker, and the models are currently not available pretty much anywhere in the world. So that's a problem. Although Lumineth from Age of Sigmar range doesn't...
It's all work, though. Because like Lumineth are definitely AOS. Like, they don't feel like one of those model ranges that were like originally designed for fantasy and then moved into AOS. They feel like they were designed for AOS.
Oh, I feel like they're a direct, like, the spearmen are, in my opinion, straight up old world. While they're like not from
with
the
their
old world.
hats.
Yeah, I'm not the Stonehammer guys. No, the other guys. Yes.
I mean, yeah, with very limited work. Like, I basically with a pair of clippers. I agree with you. You can turn almost all of those models into a beautiful old world range. I'm trying to give AOS some daps here, though. I mean, what I'm saying is, like, it's a uniquely... You have to work to make them high elves. High elves and Lumineth are, to me, two distinct things. That was all I was trying to say. Trying to give some love to my Lumineth brothers and sisters, that's all.
Please don't. They're elf players, so they suck.
But to your point, essentially unavailable right now. And I think, again, not a lot of great third-party options.
Yes, I would agree with that. Although they're very cool. You've got some. If you do, again, like with Chaos Dwarfs, if you get the models together, the story is cool, the rules are cool. You got some great units, and I do think you can do some other stuff. So I'm going to put them in C because don't forget this is geared towards new people entering into playing the old world. Can you get the models? Is always going to be such a massive distraction down. But if you do get them, they've got a lot of playability, I think, and a little bit more. Next up is the Lizardmen.
Lizards.
Tell me what you think.
The lizards are probably, again, the most old world of factions. Of course, they do suffer from not literally being in the old world. So that's a problem for the old Lizardmen. They have been resurrected as Seraphon over in AOS. So that means that this range, again, we're looking at collectability here, is spicy, sexy, good times, looking beautiful. S tier quality, range, collectability. Very mucho dinero though, because obviously you're getting like 5 to 10 models per box. So if this were to ever, if we've got the old models, it would be a little cheaper to bring it. I would say lots of good third-party options as well for collecting. For whatever reason, super popular in the STL department. I guess people love sculpting dinosaurs and lizard people. But from the rules perspective, they feel like, again, this is a legendary / renegade faction. They're facing a lot of headwinds. They took some knocks on the chin. I don't know if they're particularly competitive. I feel like they would be good enough, though, if you were to play. I think because they're renegades and they don't have a great amount of support, I got to give them a situationally good but not great. But I think that's just because their renegade book out of the gates it feels a little overpointed and not fully baked. That's where I'm at with them.
Yeah, okay, I think that's fair. Their popularity I can answer with a single question. Comments in the YouTube comments if you can. And Val, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Favorite dinosaur?
Yeah.
Probably like one of the big herbivores, I would say.
There you go. That's why they're popular, because every single human being has a favorite dinosaur. Right.
And it's dinosaurs riding dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's a chat, same question. Let me know what it is. I got to say, I'm an OG Lizardmen fan, as you know. That was one of my 8th edition fantasy armies. The models for Seraphon have just got better and better, in my opinion. They're 11 out of 10. So collectability, very, very high. You've got a very diverse roster. You've got lots of monsters. You've got big magics. I've seen non-slan builds. I've seen a variety of different builds, which I think are interesting as well. So collectability is very high. It's not a core faction, so I think it can never be around the S. But I feel it's an A. That's how I feel. I don't know if their rules are good enough, and right now out of the gates, like this is why, like to me, vampire counts were S tier just because they're collectible and their rules are so good that they probably can hang for a long time. Lizardmen are already, they feel like the rules are a little bit behind on it. We haven't really seen them making a lot of splashes yet, unless people just go with that really insufferable skink swarm style that's always been good. I mean, I'd love to see them in A tier, but they feel like a B tier to me. Okay, I'll put them in B tier, but I really do feel like if you are like a new I guess it's a core faction. If you're a new person and you like the models, play Age of Sigmar, like truthfully, but they're so good, man. Like the models are so good. It's such an evocative range. I'm just super vibing on it. Okay, ogres. So these actually, I did a kind of tier list on the boxes available for Age of Sigmar, and ogres are in there, and they were in my do not even collect category.
Oh boy!
Yeah, the reason
which makes them S tier for collectability in Old World.
Well, yeah, specifically because they're not a core faction in the Old World, which means that they are a main faction in Age of Sigmar. They are now, with Skaven getting re-released, the oldest range in Age of Sigmar, which means we're going to get some new models for Age of Sigmar, I would guarantee, over the course of 4th edition, which means these models probably are going to get retired. Does this mean that those individual models get moved into Old World? I don't know, but I wouldn't collect them now because they're going to get updated soon, so there'll be some sick new models, although the old models are pretty great. And then for play style, actually pretty good. You can have magic. They're all monstrous infantry, which is pretty fun. They've got artillery. They've got monsters. They've got different types of monsters. I think they're pretty. If you like
monsters, if you like monsters, this is the and like small model count.
Easy to paint.
Easy to paint. These guys feel to me like a different version of dwarves, but easier to collect as well. And I understand what you're saying about like the impending likely update for them, but I also don't dislike them, especially in the fantasy context. And then just like that we've seen with the Croxagore in AOS New Sculpts and the new Stone Trolls in AOS New Sculpts, it's debatable whether or not they'll fit on the 40 millimeter base when they get redone. I don't know. I feel like they feel very B tier to me. Their rules seem fine, if not a little overpointed. That can be fixed pretty easy. Like to me, the biggest thing holding back ogres right now is that they feel a little too cooked from a cost perspective, and like even some slight tweaks would make the list a lot more interesting. So to me, they feel again very much in that mushy middle B tier for me.
I don't know. I feel like they're an A because like they're super collectible. The only reason I'm knocking them down is because I think they're getting updated. That's a bit of a guess. So like I feel like they're collectible. I feel like they're very paintable. I feel like they're very fucking fun. There's a billion. There's not a billion. There's quite a few. Shout out to Clay Beast Creations who just put an amazing set of new STLs out. They've got ogres on Bear Cav for the Mournfang, which is so good. So I think that's really, really good. You could use ogres as mercs. It's a great shout in other armies as well. So if you do end up painting out a bunch of ogres, I just feel like they're an A, and I don't know why.
I wouldn't argue it. They feel, they just feel a little bit more narrow in their range. It feels like, from a collectability and playability perspective, again, to get an army on the table, ogres is probably one of the absolute best options. So I'm not mad at about it. An A tier, just because if you were coming in, you were like, what army can I get on the table real fast? Ogres, no doubt.
No doubt. All right, good. A. Lovely. That's nice. I wasn't expecting that. I'm a little cautious putting any non-core factions, renegade factions in A or S, but here we are. So don't worry, we're about to put someone in S, so it's fine.
Oh, 100p. Yeah, no doubt.
This is the Goblins.
Orcs and Gobos. It's an army that includes two distinct almost factions. It has an outstanding Arcane Journal already out. Dare I say, all of the re-release boxes that have come from GW, and this is going to sound insane. I know there was a price hike recently. I'm probably asking for trouble here. But if you're looking at comparables, it's hard not to say that 15 Boar Boys for whatever they're charging seems like decent value for Games Workshop standards. I'm just going to say that out loud. Sure, the Orc Boar Chariot's not so great, but there's just it's a range that I personally love, even though it is quite old. It's entirely available at this point. It has some great other bits you can get from the Gloomspite, gets AOS range if you like your Night Goblos like I do. It has a billion different builds and styles that you could play. Literally any type. If you like monstrous infantry, if you like regular infantry, heavy infantry, if you like weird goblin stuff, if you like randomness, if you like stuff you can depend on, whatever you want, Greenskins can do it. To me, this is the S tier of armies. Full stop, no problem. Let's go.
Yeah, diversity, massive. You can play war machines, you can play monsters, you can play cavalry, you can play monstrous infantry, literally a whole way to play them now. They've got you some unique characters. You can just keep telling people that you have troll trousers on, which is obviously perfect.
Lovely. Hike up them troll trousers. Yep.
Yeah, which is great. I think it's an easy S for everything. You can collect them, you can paint them. There's a million alternate sculpts, as Val's talked about, out there in the wild. Shout out to Avatars of War, but there are loads of other ones as well. I think that they're just a very unit fillers are good. They're very collectible and very evocative. And I think that's the easiest S here.
Just want to correct the record immediately. I was confusing Boar Boys with Wolf Riders. Wolf Riders are 15 a box. Boar Boys still 10 a box. More than your 5 a box that you'd expect from a model like the Boar Boys. Anyway, just saying, S tier, no doubt about it. Great in game, great on the shelf. Love orcs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hadn't really thought about that, but now we're halfway through. I was like, obviously that was going to be an S. So, okay, next up, Skaven.
Tricky.
So they're about to get a new model range from Age of Sigmar for the launch of 4th edition. They are a non-core faction, which is interesting, and they traditionally are wildly fun. So I love Skaven. Let's just throw that out there. I think they look cool. They are intrinsically the old world, and so the fact that they've been co-opted and stolen by Games Workshop for Age of Sigmar, which is you feel like they have enough crazy shit. Like just let the old world have Skaven.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
But they're a core faction for Age of Sigmar, so they're not a core faction for the old world. Really diverse model range, lots of different kits. They're about to get updated, and then they have a variety of different ways to play, although it's a harder army to put on the table and play the Skaven, I'd say. It's a little bit more challenging. So, it's non-core. The models are available, and there will be new models literally in 2 months, so that's great. So if you wanted to wait until then, but you might not continue to get the support.
it feels like of the legendary and renegade options that we have so far, you've got lizardmen, ogres, vampire counts. Those all have like armies that you wouldn't have to put like you can build those pretty lean. So you can build them so they're low model count, like lots of monsters, whatever. If you get it on the table and it's not your jam, well, too bad. It's all good. Skaven, who have already pretty bad rules right now, not the greatest design out of the gate for the legacy for the Renegades for Skaven. You got to do a lot of work to get anything on the table for them. And then once you get them there, they might suck, and they could genuinely suck for a long time.
Yeah.
Like long time. So they could be the Beastmen or Bretonnians of this cycle. So we don't know when they come back, despite them being quintessentially old world. It's shocking to me that they are in the state that they are, but to me, it feels like a mediocre / just because the upfront build is so expensive and time intensive to get an army that you may not even like and be so sad about on the table. They feel anywhere between mediocre and terrible for me.
I'm going to put them in terrible, and the reason is because you can get the models, and that was the main criticism for Chaos.
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
And ultimately, if you're new, like, you're going to fire off some warp lightning cannons and cast some spells, and you're going to be having a good time. Like, legit, Skaven will play like Skaven. They'll blow themselves up. They'll do silly stuff. Like, they've got some really good positive. Like, if you see the Skaven range and you're like, I want crazy mechanical rats, you have crazy mechanical rats, and you can buy them, which is great. But if you're new, and because I really do think that they're not like Chaos Dwarfs. I think the models are available, and I think if you're new and you can have fun with them, like, because you're new yourself, I think that that's going to be fine. And I think people will always love whenever you see a Skaven play, you're like, okay, this will be fun. Like, every time, like, you see a Skaven play, you think, I'm going to have a good time against this. Is going to be good, in my personal opinion. So I think.
I mean, there's sticky rats, whatever. I mean, sure. I mean, I love Skaven. I look forward to a glorious Skaven future where they return triumphantly alongside the vampire counts and lizardmen, holding hands and skipping into the brave future. But we're not there right now. And I think mediocre is a generous spot to give a Skaven for collecting and playing. I think, ironically, these are both, and perhaps we're falling right into GW's evil hands here, but I feel as though Chaos Dwarves and Skaven might be great options for AOS in the near future. Tomb Kangs up next. Obviously, a release faction.
So you can get all of the models. They're all available. They're super, super popular.
Divisive, I would say divisive models.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, some people love the derp skeletons and the style, like that old, very, very old plastics style. We're talking pre-CAD design. Plastics design style. So, at least they don't charge a ton for them necessarily. But I've been seeing a lot of Tomb King's armies on the tables, and I have to say that despite all of the hate that we have dumped on the quality of the range, Bravo, they have been looking pretty nice when you actually have them all out there. Real easy to paint up. Palette is not too complicated. Contrast and slap chop, all sorts of speed painting techniques work on them. They're really good in the game with multiple different versions of and styles and approaches that you can run with. You can go like big toughness 6. You can go with lots of chariots. You've got Cetra the Imperishable. They feel really good. Again, to me, these guys are bordering on the S tier, certainly at least A tier for me.
I feel A tier. I think diverse roster, like you said. You got monsters infantry. You've got chariots, like in big amounts. Obviously, you've got wizards. You've got non-wizards. You've got artillery. You've got a range of stuff, which is fun. If you are getting into the old world, like, model availability is good. Like, we're literally talking about model availability. We're not even yet really at model quality. Because while we put, listen, I know you love orcs and goblins, but I'm not here standing for that, fucking ball boy chariot that they're put on sale currently. I'm not here standing for that. That's not where I'm at as a person. But availability, is probably one of those key factors. So they are available.
They say in sports, availability is the best ability. So we feel an A tier for these guys.
Yeah, I'm feeling A. I'm feeling
all
A.
right.
So they're available. They've got a good roster. Yeah, that's good. Warriors of Chaos. These, I think, they're a core faction, and I think they hit an S straight away. They have all the models are available. You've got a variety of builds. Warriors themselves are a little disappointing, as are Chaos Knights and Chosen and stuff, but you can do Demon Princes, Lords on Manticores, Dragons, whatever, Chariots. You can run Chariot builds, you can run Cavalry builds, you can run a bunch of monsters in there as well, even though they're not particularly great. Then you can just do all different marks. You can have a block of Nurgle Warriors one time and a bunch of frenzied double hand weapon core warriors another time. You've got loads of options from rules writing and from army building, and it's unsurprising they're one of the most popular factions already. I think they're an S.
I think they are decidedly an S. To me, they are the Space Marines of Warhammer Fantasy. They are similar to me to ogres in the sense that you can get them on the table pretty quickly, and you can have an army that you can learn very fast. They are supported. They're a core faction. They will get additional stuff, but also right now you can go out and get some really beautiful AOS redesigns and sculpts. They have been around forever, so the secondhand market is really frothy for them. Everything that you said makes them S tier to me. Although I do think that from like a total, like if you put them next to orcs in the S tier, as far as like the different ways you can build Chaos Warriors of Chaos, I feel like isn't quite as diverse in that perspective.
Yeah, and they're also a bit of a trap. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and they're a bit of a trap. Like you're playing Warriors of Chaos, but probably the worst units choices in Warriors of Chaos are the Warriors of Chaos. So yes, you're absolutely right. So that's something to be conscious of.
I suspect too that certain balancing around like the macro around infantry versus cavalry versus war machines, whatever. I think that's stuff that can be tweaked, and I think we will see shifts like that in the future for the game. Yeah, I think S tier, very fair place, which gives us one remaining option.
What else? Models are unavailable. The army is sick good. That's just
sick good, bro.
Sick good. So, and you can do like a variety of builds. All tree men builds are pretty fun. It's quite interesting. You can do a lot of pew pew. They are very fragile. If you build them fragile, they can be quite tough if you build them tough. But the models are not available. But the range itself is great, super evocative. There are not that many alternative sculpts out there. It's quite a hard one to get a hold of if you go in alternative sculpts. I feel that they're really fun to play because they're very good. So
they're also tremendously unique. So, like, to me, what I've always found interesting about Wood Elves, like High Elves versus Dark Elves, like I was saying before, they feel very samey. They're just one version is evil. Whereas Wood Elves stand alone, I think, from all the factions with a very unique play style that is run and gun, is shooting, but isn't as static as the Dwarves version of shooting. To me, I mean, if you could get the models, they are core factions, so eventually you will be able to. But to me, they're at least a B tier. They do not belong mediocre, at least. Just raised by like the pain in the ass of going to find all of these models. And by the way, all the wood stuff still exists. But the pain in the ass of finding the models is outweighed by like getting them on the table and having a blast with them. So at least B.
I think I'm going to have to put them in C just because of model availability. Because you can have just as much fun with Chaos Dwarfs. You just can't get the models.
If you could get the models for these guys, they would be at least A tier. At least A tier.
Well, then that puts Chaos Dwarfs up, because if you can get the models for Chaos Dwarfs, you can have a fucking great time.
Well, hold on a second. You can buy all the tree stuff right now. They're Sylvaneth. Like, they're not completely dead. And there are third-party options. I don't like these guys are at least, they gotta be B tier.
Let's agree to disagree at the end.
They're S tier rules. They're S tier rules.
I don't think they're S tier rules for new people. I don't think they're S tier rules for new people. I think that's kind of.
You can't put them in mediocre. You cannot put Wood Elves in mediocre. That is just a disservice to the people out there. I guess they go unranked then.
Do you think? Do you think? I know, because I'm just for completing it. I can do it. But do you think new players? This is my genuine question. New players would enjoy the play style of sitting in a corner firing a bunch of arrows. Not talking about their competitive abilities. Talking about.
That's not what Wood Elves do, though. Wood Elves run around firing a bunch of arrows. They're rat-a-tat-tatting. They're using magic. Like, it's not just it's collectability and playability. We didn't say strictly new players. I mean, yes, that there is a frame of reference there, but I mean, to me, they're just so unique and so special that, like, if you if you think of wood elves next to lizardmen, dwarfs, demons, and Bretonnians, that feels fair. I don't think they fit in with dark elves, empire, high elves, and Skaven, because those are all both armies that are hard to collect and bad to play.
Okay. I just think that they are harder to collect, maybe. Seeing as my friend Toby has sold about 40,000 points worth of wood elves from 3D prints, I would say that people...
So how hard is it to collect then? Just call Tobes, 1-800-CALL Toby.
1-800-CALL Toby.
Yourself some woodies.
Listen, because I love you, I'm just going to put them in B, although I personally think they should be in C, right? So we'll put that in there.
So look at that. Look at the symmetry we got now. That's nice.
Yeah, that is nice. Yeah, that's true. I would say wood elves, for me personally, just, again, to reinforce it, harder to collect, and I think also tougher to play if you're new. So that's something I want to be conscious of. So because fragile is hard to play and you can lose a lot, right? But they are
good,
probably,
but not great.
But they are probably one of the best armies in the game, to be clear, right? But that's not really what the metric is. Anyway, how do you feel about the list?
That was way more fun than I thought it would be. I will say that much. I'm looking at how we wound up with it. And I really feel good about C and D. I feel like, you know what? Yeah, I don't mind it. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see in the comments what people think about this. Again, we're talking about collectability plus playability, not like who's the best, all that kind of stuff, but just like, what are the things that we can go out and get? What's worth struggling for? This felt like a good show.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Also,
I enjoyed myself.
Hilariously, the two next armies I want to play are Ogres in A and Chaos Dwarfs in D. So, I would like everyone to be clear that even if you're a Chaos Dwarf stan, please understand, so am I, right? And and I would also put that in there as well. So, I think some really good. I think this is really fun, and hopefully this has been really helpful for new people to get some sort of idea. And then maybe we could expand on this in another show, and we could start to talk about the units that you would want to collect and why for each of the armies. That would be really fun to accompany a deep dive. So that would be a fun little addition to our roster of shows. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please do like, comment, and subscribe, and then just get involved in our chats on Patreon, which should be fun.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah. Good.
That was good times.
It was good times. Good times.
Chat, did you have a good time? Chat had a good time, I hope.
I think Chat had a good time, although they do love getting pissy with us about the comments. Someone said if I didn't put, I can't remember who it was, one of the armies, Ogres into S tier, they were dead. I was dead to them, so.
I mean, I did threaten to leave the show at least 4 times. I did bully you repeatedly. I bullied you repeatedly. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I went to bat really hard for the Wood Elves just for that nice pyramid we got out of that. I mean, it looks nice.
All right, I agree. Well, listen, it's been lovely. Thank you to Val Heffelfinger and also everyone for watching live. Stay square blessed, and let us know how you feel. See you guys soon. Thanks very much. Bye.